Hi guys, my name is 𝘉𝘠𝘫𝘰𝘺 obviously, and today we are talking about the top 5 Android phones. Now going on to number 5, I'm going to have to look at my notes because I literally made this about 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to preface, some of these will, this will all be, so I will preface, these will be of all time and not the current phone specifically. So yes, if I want to put the LG banana phone, I will put the LG banana phone in this video. We're talking about the BlackBerry Priv. Now, why am I talking about the BlackBerry Priv? Because the Key 2 was so good, and this is what the Priv could have been in a more modern sense. So if we had the execution of the Key 2 and put this in like a Priv 2 with sort of the form factor, we would have had a much better phone. Alas, now you're going to have to go to 𝘊𝘬𝘭𝘢𝘺 for a phone with a keyboard, because the Asus ROG phones, now specifically the ones with a screen on the back. Why? Because I like them. The Sony Xperia 1 set of phones, because I cannot recommend the iPro or any of the Pro, well there's only 2. Most budget or mid-range Android phones are just lacking in everything. So we're just talking about the 1 series. Why? When it comes to most Android phones, my initial look, especially compared to, when it comes to Android phones, I'm looking at the aspect ratio. I'm looking at the shape and the feel in the hand, especially compared to iPhones. What's different to this that'll make me switch over? That's what happened with the Z Flip. And I was so close to getting a Sony Xperia on multiple occasions, just for the simple fact of the tool aspect ratio, the feel in the hand when it came to the metal, and a few years ago would have been the glass, back and front, something you would not get on phones of the period. But they're just too expensive. They're really hard to recommend because they are so niche. In fact, the only person that's going to get it is for the camera, and you're not going to get a phone for the camera unless it's an iPhone, because there's so much else that's good with an iPhone along with the camera, whereas with Sony, yes, the software's great, but it can only go so far. I'm being a bit hypocritical here because I'm talking about budget phones. However, the Pixel 6 and 7a, the reason I'm not recommending the full-fledged ones is because, again, I just feel like they're too expensive for what they are. If you want a Google phone made by Google with a Google chip, I heavily encourage you to look at the 6A and 7A, especially at this current point in time in the UK, where there's actual carriers that will be hosting these phones, because it doesn't really matter about specs when it comes to a fully optimized phone, which is why I say the iPhone SE and the 14 and the 13 instead of the Pro. It's an optimized phone. It's much easier to recommend the budget options. This is the same with the normal 14 and 13 line of iPhones, no different to the 6A and 7A. More so the 7A because of obviously it being brand new or newer than the 6A, the colours, and how much you get in terms of bang of buck. That is absolutely mental for a phone that you will not notice the difference of, and I don't understand when I see people who are not taking advantage of the Pro line of features, especially with the iPhone 14. I get the size of the phone, but that's why they made the iPhone 14 Plus, and maybe this is different in America. I do not know. Going on to in fact, we have some honourable mentions, I think. Honourable mention is the Zenfone 10. This is similar to the Asus ROG, but we're talking about something that, even though it's similar to both of them, this has become a highlight with the Zenfone 10. It is the software. Being able to choose if you want stock Android or Asus's, I don't know what you call it, brand of Android, their launcher. And if you don't want that, as I said, you can go with stock Android. The colours are lovely. Don't know how much they're going to hold up. The camera rate is brilliant. However, I will just say to get an ROG phone if you're going Asus, because that is something that the brand offers that a lot of people don't, unless you're Chinese. Now, going on to number 1, we're talking about the Nokia Lumia 365. Why? Because look at that green, man. Oh, that is so sexy. Look at the live tiles, bro. And oh my god, that lock screen, man, that is just pure poetry. Obviously, I'm joking. It's a Windows phone, not an Android phone. We're actually talking about the Note 7. Why? Because it